Okay, Old Man Winter, this is going to be a little discussion of our zone defense with a three-man cup. So here we have our field. Wind is going basically vertically or diagonally in this direction, and the offense is proceeding up against the wind. We have our offensive players in orange, and we set up our zone defense. The disc is here. First, we have 2 points. We call this one the on point and this one the off point. The on point is marking and forcing downwind. Note that the points are basically cutting off the throwing lanes in these directions. We also have the top of the cup. We're playing, say, here, as well as a short deep and wings, and the deep deep, we'll also call him monster. So these points are cutting off lateral throws and slightly upwind. This leaves a big throwing lane right here open in the middle. Now this short deep and the top of the cup will work in tandem to cut off throws through here. So we want the top of the cup basically thinking about this area is cut in half. We'll take one half and the short deep will take the other. The short deep is the one who will decide and have to tell the top of the cup which side to go on. So the short deep could say right to the top of the cup. We'll then proceed over to this side if the short deep wants to move over here and fill this lane. Or vice versa, if the short deep feels like he wants to play over here, he'll yell at the top of the cup to move left. We'll then fill in that spot. And in that way, there's always one lane through the cup, but it's always going to be filled by the short deep. So the wings of the monster play out wide. If no one is out here, say this guy decides to go over in here, the wing is also going to pinch in. If there's no sideline threat, there's no reason to be playing out wide. You can come help fill in the lanes. Now these points have an important job. They absolutely do not want to let anything go, particularly the on point. You do not want to let things go in through this lane. If you're going to give something up, make sure the person throws out the outside. Similar here, you'd rather have the person throw on the outside than through the cup, but they're basically playing 180 degrees apart from each other relative to the offensive player with the disc. All right, so what happens, say we have it set up this way. Now the offense decides to swing the disc out over here. So he now gets the disc. The cup has to move, but it has to move in an organized fashion. So one thing you don't want to do is if you're this point over here, is you don't run straight at the player with the disc. You always have to think on defense, what is the most immediate and most dangerous threat? And the immediate dangerous threat is not the person with the disc. He's not going anywhere. His next option is usually going to be some offensive player coming into this space here. So he runs this way, checking over his shoulder, looking for targets to cut off that next throw. The top of the cup and the short deep also move over, keeping their relative positions to each other. The on point is also going to move and cut off any return throw that goes straight back to the person who just released the disc. So let's say this person who has the disc now is on the sideline. We want to run a sideline trap if they're on the downwind side. So the off point guy who ran up this way to cut off the next throw is actually going to drop down here. And he's going to mark, and he's going to stop the dump. The on point is going to be more or less lateral at that 90 degrees, or maybe even slightly below 90 degrees. Let's put him slightly below 90 degrees. And the top of the cup is going to be more or less straight up the line, off the line somewhat, so that there's now an apparent throwing lane through here for the offense. That lane is filled by the short deep, who's going to be back here. So this marker is cutting off any dump, throw, or at least making it challenging. So the offensive player wants to come back here for a dump. Usually this guy out here is going to pinch inside, like so. This throw through the lane is the temptation that we want that offensive player to throw. The short deep can lurk somewhat back and hop right in as the popper, where somebody tries to get a throw through there. The other temptation is for this player with the disc to try and get, this guy moves up, to try and burn a throw on either side of this person who's off the disc, maybe to get here over to this guy. This on point, the on point is not marking at this point. Remember, it's the off point who is marking, is absolutely going to stop those throws. So the only real option for this guy is to try to break the mark and hit the dump. Now the point of this is that we want to keep this disc on the sideline. The marker, the off point guy, will absolutely not let any inside throws out. If he's going to let something out, it's going to be the throw like this. The other temptation is he might try to burn up the line, the top of the cup, who's going to not be all the way on the line, but will just leave maybe a little tiny sliver of an opening there, because the wing is going to be out here with his back to the sideline, looking for any cutters trying to sneak into that lane. All right, so let's say the offensive player manages to get this dump off. What do we do? So the temptation again is for this guy to run straight at the disc and try and get the mark established as quickly as possible. That's not the way we want to play it. The immediate threat is this guy is going to get the disc and swing it immediately over here, which is what we want to stop. So you run over, fill that lane, or maybe not quite that deep, but fill that lane and then close in and reestablish your positions, thereby cutting off any swing throw. The deep is going to continue to fill that lane. The top of the cup is going to go back or come back in and stop any return throw to the guy who just threw the dump. So once we do all this, the setup is back to exactly what we were before, maintaining our sideline trap with our off point, our on point, our top of the cup up here, and our deep, or our short deep back here lurking, filling in for that open gap. Okay, when moving, remember to always check over your shoulder, identify that target before you close in and set the mark. So why do we want to do this? So the normal way people, or what I think most of us are used to, is to play a trap where the offense has the disc and the top of the cup comes over here to mark, and we have the on point here and the off point up here. The reason why I don't want us to play this way is because even though This on point is usually covering the dump directly. The guy from the other side is usually over here. And the way this gets broken is typically by the thrower eventually beating the marker. The marker can't really hold the trap and show any decent thrower down for 10 seconds. So usually this guy is going to get one off towards the middle of the field, which is absolutely what we don't want to happen. Instead, we're going to bring our defenders back and have our mark up here. That way, when the mark gets broken, which is probably going to happen to most anybody, we keep that position on the sideline. So remember, the goal of our trapping zone D is to get it to the sideline, keep them there, and to tempt the thrower into an apparent throwing lane through the cup where our short deep is lurking to shut anything down. Meanwhile, our wings are back here covering on the sideline, and the monster is seeing everything. Now, it's also important that there is proper communication. So the short deep is always talking to this top of the cup, right, left, back, and so on. And the wings in the short deep must communicate to let them know when a player is moving into their zone, and the monster is talking to the wings and to the short deep, letting them know when somebody's coming in or calling somebody back in case they break out a throw here and they're busting deep. He's got to call somebody back. Sideline communication is also important. Talking to the defenders. Now, one thing I don't want to have happen is when you're on the sideline, don't tell the wings or any of the defenders where to go. Tell them who on the offensive team is nearby or in their zone. Where they should go is up to the monster. If you're on the sideline telling him, go back, go back, go back, the monster might be calling him, pinch in, pinch in, pinch in. We don't want to be giving this player conflicting jobs or telling him to conflicting pieces of information. So it's the job of the monster and the players on the field to tell each other where to go. It's the job of the players on the sideline to inform the defenders about the positions of the offensive players.